Good morning, everyone. I'm Shriram Sankaran, Senior Product Manager at Syncfusion. So in today's session, I'll be talking about how we can build AI-driven Blazor UIs with design systems and agent skills. But I would like to start with one important point. This session is not about using AI to generate UI faster. AI can already generate UI quickly, but the real question is, can AI generate UI that is consistent, structured, maintainable, and closer to production ready? So this is where design systems and agent skills become more important. So in today's session, we will be discussing about how AI behaves when it does not have enough context, why this happens, and how we can improve the output by providing it the right design system, the component knowledge, and workflow instructions. So the core idea of this talk, or the core message, is that we are not asking AI to generate a random UI. We are teaching AI the way that we design UI. So what we are going to cover today is as follows. First, we'll start with the problems in UI building and why AI struggles, following which we'll discuss the couple of solutions, which are design systems and skills, and we will connect all of this with the AI-driven UI workflow. And we will complete this session with a couple of demos. So yes, two demos, one which discusses the problem and one the solution. So we would be trying to generate a simple dashboard, first one without skills and design system, and in the second demo we will use Syncfusion's Agentic UI Builder and Blazor component skills to generate the same dashboard and look at the difference between them. So let's start with the problem. So basically, we all know AI can generate user interfaces very quickly. For example, if we ask it to generate a form, a simple dashboard, a data entry page, a profile page, it can come up with something in a few seconds or minutes. But if you take a closer look at it, the UI generated would be generic. So, the generated UI may not have a clear layout structure, the components may be misaligned, the spacing may be inconsistent. So it can also use colors that are not part of the selected theme. So if you look at the UI, it may look good technically, but if you have a closer look at it, it might not look polished for an enterprise application. And this problem becomes bigger when we are like scaling or preparing or working on larger applications. For example, if AI is going to generate a single page with its own random styling, it can be accepted as a starting point. But when it's going to generate tens or twenties of these screens, that will become a problem, because if there are like styling inconsistencies in all of these pages, these inconsistencies would scale rapidly. So from a Blazor point of view, what would happen is that plain HTML can be used in place of a grid component. It can use bootstrap cards instead of maybe a richer card or layout component. It can hardcode CSS in every page. It can use custom CSS, which is not part of the existing application. And it might not use a component library, which the existing team has been like using. So that is because it does not have the respective knowledge of the design system or the components. So what we will do now is we will have a look at this problem as part of a demo. So as I already informed, this is a recorded demo. And I always used to say, demos are recorded with respect to AI because live demos tend to have, capability to produce new failure cases when we show it live. So I will just start the recording for you. So as you can see on screen, we have an employee application, which is a standard basic Blazor web app with, interactive server mode. So what I will do is I will just start with providing a prompt to generate a employee dashboard in the chat panel. And as you can see, I'm like using Code Studio, Syncfusion's AI powered IDE, and you can use your AI powered IDE of your choice. So I'll just proceed to enter the prompt. So the prompt asks AI to create a simple employee dashboard. Yeah, web application using Blazor framework. So once I enter the prompt, the AI would start its work. So what the AI would do now is it would straight away start with code generation once it reads the file in the existing application. So as I told you, it has like read the files and it is starting with code generation. It has created a model file which is employee.cs. Then it has like created another file which is employee service.cs file. And it also created the dashboard.razor file. Now it's making changes to the program.cs file. So let's maybe quickly fast forward the unimportant sections. In addition to the program.cs file, it has also edited the navmenu.razor and the home.razor files. So the next step would be to add styles to the project related to the dashboard that's been like created. So it has like read the app.css file and is working on editing it. Again, let's fast forward a bit. Okay, now that the code generation is complete, it will move to the build part, which would again fast forward to. So while it's building the application, what it would do is if it finds any errors, it would just fix it and rebuild the application so that it can be properly run in a browser. Okay, the build has failed with 5 errors. Now you can see it automatically fixing the errors and rebuilding. Okay, so the application has been like created successfully and it's providing a summary of the files created or modified, to which we will come back later. And it also provides a summary of the features that are like part of the application. Now we will open a new terminal and run the app. So let me just navigate to the URL. Okay, so there you have the employee application on screen in the home page. So now we will just navigate to the dashboard section. So there you go. We have a simple employee dashboard and it's working with a set of cards, simple cards, and a list of employees displayed in a table. And it also has options to add an employee, edit an employee, and delete an employee. So when you look closer, this does not look polished as an enterprise UI. So we face the similar problems that we discussed. For example, it does not have knowledge about any specific components that I'm like using in the existing application, or it does not know the design system of this particular application. So it might not use that. So now let's have a look at the files that were like created as part of this particular application. So 6 files have been like created or modified as part of this process. So we have the employee, a model class. It has the necessary properties required for displaying, adding, editing, and deleting an employee. And we have the employee service class, which has a inline collection of employees, followed by, I believe, the methods to get the employee details, the list of employees, and the operations of adding, editing, and deleting an employee. Next, we'll move on to the most important file, which is the dashboard.razor. So here we can have a look at the problems straight away. As you can see, for the cards, basic HTML div elements, paragraph elements, or labels have been like used instead of a rich, a card component. And it has forms which again follows the same. We have another form over here. And then we have the employee table. So instead of a grid component, it is using plain HTML table over here. So this is one issue that we already discussed. So these are the other, code sections available in the dashboard.razor file. Next, we'll move to the home.razor file where minimal changes would be like available. And we can like see another problem over here. The styles, there are no design tokens. We have styles specific to the home.razor file. And when we have a look at the app.css file next to, the same issue would be available over here. No specific design tokens, styles, random styles that the AI applies for the employee dashboard that it has like created. So that is a problem that we are like discussing over here. It is not that AI cannot generate UI, it can generate UI, but the problem is it might not always generate UI that follows the project standards or the application standards, and it follows the design system and uses the components that we wish to be used. So what happens is that developers, they need to rework on this. They need to modify sections of the UI structure with the respective components that the team has already been using, then fix styling or layout issues, incomplete APIs, and they need to standardize the application or align the application to the existing standards. So this is the problem that we are like facing. So the time that was like saved as part of the UI generation now comes back as rework. So the main question that we are like asking as part of this session is that, can AI generate UI faster, but UIs which are like consistent, component aware, and design system driven? So that is the main question that we are like trying to address in today's session. So let's go back to the slides. Now let's discuss about why this happens. So there are like three possible reasons. The first one, AI does not have the design context or rules. So your application may have specific design rules for spacing, typography, colors, the components that are being like used, navigation, etc. So if AI does not know about this, it is going to guess only. The second reason, it might have limited knowledge or incomplete knowledge of the UI controls being used. For example, in my application, I want it to use Syncfusion Blazor components like data grid, charts, progress bar, drop down, buttons, etc. But if it does not have the necessary knowledge, it is going to fall back to generic markup or HTML, or it is going to provide some half-baked UI based on the information that is like available with it. Third, it produces guess-based implementations. So AI, what it does is that it tries to satisfy the prompt using general knowledge. So this might work for a prototype, but not for an enterprise application. So we want the AI to work with intention and not generate random UI. So you get the point, right? So that is where the solution for these problems comes over here. So at a high level, the solutions are design system and skills. So let's discuss one by one over here. So let's start with design system. So a design system is the foundation of UI consistency. So what it does is that it provides reusable decisions for colors, typography, spacing, components, layout patterns, and guidelines. So in Blazor, this can be mapped to CSS variables, theme files, reusable components, component specific CSS. So what a design system does is that it eliminates repeated UI decisions, inconsistent styles, and random component usage. For example, if in my application I want to have a specific design tokens, instead of hard coding CSS in every page, I can have specific design tokens for colors, maybe the background color, the text color, borders, spacing, and typography. And if I want to style card spacing in various pages, I do not need to have to specify in all these pages. I can have a standard styling for cards itself, and I can also decide on how data needs to be displayed in a table or a grid like structure as the standard of the application itself, so that it can be like reused. So in short, a design system, it enables faster development, consistent UI across screens, and it provides AI ready foundation. So in short, what design system says is that it asks AI to generate UI faster, but within the standards that are like set. Next, we will have a look at skills. So a skill is a structured way for, that guides AI to perform a task. So in our context, what a skill does is that it guides AI to generate UI using the design system guidance and the components that are like available. So for example, in my application, I want to use a data grid component to display the employee list. So what happens is that a data grid skill can guide the AI to use the correct grid component and provide details on how to use it. So you got the point, right? And if the dashboard requires a charting component, a chart skill can guide the AI to select the correct chart component for the scenario and follow the specific UI patterns. So the core point over here is skills do not render UI. They constrain the decisions. Ultimately, the code that is like generated is Blazor. The components are Blazor components, and the styles are in CSS. The skills, they provide rules or a set of instructions or context so that AI can make better decisions instead of randomly generating UI. So before the demo, let's connect all these elements into an AI-driven UI workflow. So this is where the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder comes in, and it provides a structured workflow for UI generation. So it connects the prompt, the design system guidance, the component knowledge, and the finally generated Blazor code. So a good AI-driven UI workflow, what it needs to do is that it must not start directly from code generation. It must start from understanding. So the various steps that the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder workflow follows are: first one is intent analysis. Once the developer provides the prompt, what the agent does is that it analyzes the prompt and decides what kind of UI is going to be like generated. Then it detects the project, because the project structure is a very important item as part of this workload, because the UI needs to set for that particular project structure. Then it maps the layout and the components. As part of the analysis of the prompt, it could be text or image, the agent decides what sections of the UI needs to be replaced or needs to use specific UI components. Then comes the theming and the design system, which we discussed as part of the design system section. Only after these 4 steps are completed, we move to the code generation part. So once a code is generated, what happens is the dependencies are checked, the output is validated. If there are any issues, then the issues are fixed, then the application is built and run, and the code is inserted into the specific project files. So this workflow is very, very important, because in real development workflows, it is not just code generation in a chat. It needs to follow a specific workflow so that the generated output fits a particular project structure. It follows a design system. It uses the necessary components. It builds properly. And the output is inserted into the correct files also. So that is the difference between generic AI generation and agentic UI building. So generic AI generation, it just provides some random UI that the AI suggests, but agentic UI building, it follows a structured workflow where UI is generated as per the rules that we provide to AI, or the knowledge that we provide to AI, and produce a production ready output. So let's have a look at the final demo. Okay. So as you can see, we have Code Studio opened again with a project name Employee Dashboard. This is again a Blazor web app with interactive server mode, and it has the basic razor files that any default Blazor web app would have. So as a first step, I'll just proceed to configure Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder. So this is the explore page of the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder. And I'll just navigate to the Get Started section. So we have the various frameworks in which the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder is supported. As part of configuration, we need to install the APM, which is already done. Now I will copy the command to install the Blazor UI Builder skill because we are using a Blazor project. I'll just navigate back to Code Studio. I'll open a new terminal to paste the command. So as you can see, we are like using the Copilot version of this particular command, since that needs to be used for the Code Studio IDE. If you are using any other AI powered IDE, it could be Codex, Cursor, Claude, VS Code, etc. I mean, commands are available for those respective IDEs too. So let me just fast forward quickly to the section where the configuration is complete. So the configuration is on the verge of completion. There you go. So the configuration is complete. So with that done, now what we will do is we will just check what are the changes that are like available as part of this configuration. So under agents folder, we have the various Blazor component skills, Syncfusion Blazor component skills. So as you can see, this particular skills, it guides AI on when to use a component and how to use a component. What are the APIs that needs to be like used, what UI patterns that needs to be followed, and what are the mistakes that can be like avoided. So that is the knowledge that a skill file provides to AI. And as you can see, we have skill files for all these Syncfusion Blazor components over here. Following that, we will have a look at the Syncfusion Blazor UI Builder skill. So this is not a component specific skill. So this is based on the UI generation process. So this guides AI with respect to the UI generation, that is starting from prompt to the final code generation by following the specific design systems and the component knowledge. So next we will have a look at the agent file, which is the Syncfusion Blazor UI Builder agent. So this is one of the most important and critical files of this particular setup. So this defines the workflow for the UI generation, and it defines the various steps that we discussed as part of the AI-driven UI generation workflow, which starts from the intent analysis to project detection to mapping and mapping of layout and components and so on. So this file basically what it does is that it has the specific rules and the output that needs to be generated as part of each step. So now what we will do is we will just try to generate the same employee dashboard, but now AI has knowledge about the Syncfusion Blazor components, and it has a specific workflow and design system as part of the workflow itself. So we just select the Syncfusion Blazor UI Builder agent followed by the LLM, and we will enter the prompt. So the prompt asks to create a simple employee dashboard based on the attached UI, which I would be like attaching now. So this is the image that I'm going to attach. So I'm like mentioning to use a design system approach for consistent token based styling and use Syncfusion components wherever appropriate. So that's the difference between these two approaches. So here, code generation is not the first step at all. Without completing the first four steps, the code generation would not begin. So let's wait for the first step to start. Yeah. So the agent starts with the internal analysis, and it has like read the stage one guide file, and it proceeds to read the skill Syncfusion Blazor UI Builder to get to know about what's part of internal analysis. So here the attached UI image and the prompt is like broken down into specific sections to understand what kind of UI it is going to generate. Following that, we have the project detection. I mean, basically it's a .NET 10 project, a Blazor web app, where it finds that by reading the files in the particular project that we have like provided as a context. And one thing you can find is it has also found the CSS strategy since Bootstrap 5 is already detected in this particular project. Then it moves on to the layout and component mapping. It starts by reading the skill and it proceeds to create the component mapping JSON. So this file is very critical for this process because on analysis, it deconstructed the UI or the image that we provided into various sections. So these sections are going to be mapped into respective Syncfusion UI components using this particular file. For example, if it's a table like structure, a grid is going to be like used. Do we need to show a progress like thing, a progress bar is going to be like used. So those information would be available in the component mapping.json file, which is like created as part of this process. So as you can see, it has like provided a summary of what are the sections that are going to use the specific Syncfusion components. So you can see grid, button, accumulation chart, and all those items being displayed over here. We have drop down list, chart, progress bar, button, grid. So to provide a summary of these, yeah, there you go. And it has the necessary skills mapping too. So the step 4, the design system decisions, where Bootstrap 5 is going to be used as a Syncfusion theme. Since it has like detected a design system decision, it is going with that. Else it would use Fluent 2 theme as part of the skill file that is like already available. And it also decides the various, I mean, design system rules for typography, colors, spacing, etc. And one important thing to note over here is that the agent gets a confirmation from the end user before proceeding to generate UI. So what I will do now is I'll just check what is the suggestion that it has like provided, and then I will ask it to proceed. So this is when the actual code generation starts. And that too, it won't start directly as we saw in the first demo, what it would do is it needs to find the specific Syncfusion Blazor component skill files because they are a critical part of the code generation, and it would read those skill files before starting code generation. So it has like read the skill file for app bar, charts, accumulation chart, the data grid. Then it also read for the other components. Buttons, drop downs, progress bar. So maybe we will just fast forward this particular section. Yeah, it's almost complete. So it has like summarized the conversation history, and it's optimizing the tool selection. So now all the necessary information is available. It starts the generation of code, starting with the employee dashboard.razor file. So it will just generate two files, the employee dashboard.razor file and the employee dashboard.css file, the razor.css file. Now it started to generate the CSS file. Let's push it forward a bit. So once a CSS file is like created, it just proceeds to install the necessary dependencies. Because the added code related to the Syncfusion components did not work directly, we need to install the necessary Nougat packages, add the necessary script and CSS files. So it starts with the theme Nougat package and continues with the other component related Nougat packages. For example, grids, charts, the progress bar, drop downs, buttons, etc. So maybe we can like quickly forward this section. So you can see all the necessary packages being like installed. So it tells all 8 packages have been like installed, and now it proceeds to update the program.cs file, imports.razor file, and app.razor file. So the update of these files are very critical because these are the files where the Syncfusion components needs to be like initialized. The respective CSS and script files needs to be like added. So that's the reason for updating these files. So it has like edited the program.cs file. Now it's starting to update the imports.razor file. Now to the app.razor file, where the theme CSS and the script file are added related to the Syncfusion components. Okay, so once the code generation is done, it starts to build and verify. So it just asks for the confirmation whether we can like proceed to build. And again, as we saw in the demo one, if there are any issues in the build, it would just work on fixing it by reading the skills file again, providing the necessary fix to the respective files, and then it would like rebuild again. So let's wait for the build to complete. So the build has failed with 19 errors. So you can see it would start to try to fix the issue on its own. So let's maybe try to push this further. So it just checks whether we can like rename the dashboard page file to avoid the collision. So it has like found a collision over there. So I have like allowed it, and you can see the page names have been like modified over here. The dashboard page.racer and dashboard page.racer.css file. So once that is done, it then proceeds the build and verify again. Now it has found a few more issues. Let's see what they are. So it has like found some syntax errors. So again, it just reads the files and provides a fix. So the good thing about this particular auto iteration of building and rebuilding and fixing the issues is that if AI finds an issue and it tries to fix it, the first one is a random generation of UI. If it tries to fix it, even if the fix is a random, fix, this could go on like, in an iterative manner, and there won't be any, clear fix for the problem that is being like faced. Since we have a skill file, what AI agent does is that it just reads it. It just reads it again and again, and then comes up with a perfect solution until the project is like built successfully. So that is what is happening now. So now the build has succeeded, as you can see. Now we can just proceed to run the app in the browser. Let's maybe push it a bit so that we navigate to the section where there you go. So the simple browser is like open and the output is there on screen. So now all 8 stages have been like complete, and the agent provides a summary of the entire process, as you can see on screen. So now we will just proceed to open this particular output in a browser. The output looks good over here and it is responsive. So you have the various cards related to an employee, a search bar at the top, and then you have a chart section, a project overview section with progress bars, and then you have the list of employees in a Syncfusion data grid, and we have chart over here. So the problems that we faced in demo 1 have been like fixed over here. So what are the number of pages that you are going to build in this particular application? It is going to follow the same design system, and it is going to use the same Syncfusion components. So in this case, I mean, building of an enterprise application is going to be like really simple, as equivalent to a real life development flow. So now let's have a look at the files that were like created as part of this process. You can see instead of basic HTML elements, you can see Syncfusion's components used over here. You have the app bar, button, drop down menu, then you have charts, progress bar, then you have a grid in place of a HTML table. And buttons are also Syncfusion buttons. You have accumulation chart over here. Then you'll move on to the razor.css file. So we have design tokens over here, which uses Bootstrap 5 plus Syncfusion Bootstrap 5 theme. So you can just see the difference between the CSS that is like generated over here and in the demo one. So if I want to change a particular background color for this particular application, I do not need to make changes to multiple pages. I can just modify the CSS variable in one place so that it's like affected all over the application. So the time that was like saved as part of the UI generation would be saved in rework also, because there's no need for maximum rework. So that completes the demo. So let me just navigate back to the slides. So with that, we have come to the end of this session, where I would like to conclude that this talk, it just focused on not asking AI to design UI, but on teaching it how we design UI. So in this way, it is being very, very suitable for enterprise application development. So if you want to explore the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder further, you can just make use of this QR code, which would navigate to the explore page of the Syncfusion Agentic UI Builder, which is like supported for multiple frameworks, as you saw in this particular demo. So with that, I would like to thank everyone who joined this particular session. Thanks again.